Hi guys, here is the progress buffer and the dotted buffer from Pundit Excel. These are two separate class modules. I built these as an alternative to the circular progress indicator, our first progress buffer. So together we have three class modules. Please have a look at the circular progress indicator video so you can choose your favorite between the three. Now, although the algorithm used in building these three progress indicators is different, I have kept the integration process the same. This way, you can easily swap these tools in case you get bored with one and want to use the other. Therefore, I will be very quick on the step-by-step guide in this video since everything has been covered in detail in the circular buffer video. A link to the circular indicator video is shown in details below and can also be found on my website and my YouTube profile. So I'm going to use the same file for demonstration. But in your source files, depending on which class module was downloaded, you will have the file specifically for the downloaded class module. So let's begin. Let's assume you have downloaded the progress buffer and dotted buffer from my website and saved them in different folders on your PC. Now go to the VB editor and import the files as I do right here. When done, check and see that your class module appears under the class modules folder right there. I have all the three and you may have one depending on the module you chose. Running the progress bar on a worksheet uses the same procedure we used on a circular buffer. Remember, we added this empty user form to display the circular buffer. We are also going to use it to display any of our progress buffer. Now here is the code that displays the filtered report. I'm going to declare a new instance of our progress bar class, like so. You see? This is exactly what we did with the circular buffer. The only difference is that this time we are pointing to the progress bar class module. If you downloaded the dotted buffer, you must declare it this way. Perfect. Now let's write the code that will run the buffer. And we are going to do everything where we wrote the circular buffer code. Let's start with the progress bar. Here in the loop, I will comment out this code because we can't run all buffers simultaneously. Instead, I will point to the progress bar variable we declared at the top. The rest is the same. This points to the user form that will display the buffer. Select the progress buffer type. The size will look different because the algorithm and the objects used to build this buffer are not the same. The size here refers to the height of the bar. It is by default 50 points and ranges from 15 to 70 points. 15 being the thinnest bar and 70 being the thickest bar. So please feel free to experiment with the size and see what suits your needs. As always, this represents the number of times this code will be executed, so I will also pass in the t variable. Finally, let's destroy the buffer. I will comment out the circular buffer code, point to the progress bar variable, select the remove method and then set the destroyer to true. Wow, this is how the progress bar looks like, my friends. I like it at this size, but if you want to change the width, you can do it using the buffer width property like so. As I said, if you want, you can make this bar thinner or thicker like so. Now, because this is a progress bar, you have more flexibility on the position of the status and message. Choose however you want to display your message using the status position and the message position property. And please do this at the top before you run the buffer. If you want to show a countdown, go to the run event and change the buffer type to rewind, and this is what you will get. I'm pretty sure you are familiar with this one. So many web applications use it. They use it to show progress when they don't know how many times the code will be executed. This kind of buffer is perfect in that scenario because it relays a message to the user that something is happening and the process won't take time without saying how long. So likewise, if you are not sure how long the process will take, remove the total there and change the buffer type to loading. Now let's turn our attention to the dotted buffer. So let's comment out the progress bar and point to the dotted buffer variable. Everything is the same here, so we will also run the buffer on the user form we created. Again, the algorithm and the objects used to create the buffer are different, but the procedure is the same. So this is the loading buffer. If you want, you can increase the number of rotating dots using the rotating dots property. The range here is 6 to 16. 16 represents the total number of dots in the loading procedure depending on the buffer size selected. The sizes do look like that of a circular or ring buffer, but there are more. The rest you can experiment with. Just play around with the properties available in the dotted buffer class module. So this is how the dotted progress buffer looks like. And this is how the countdown or rewind buffer looks like. Running the buffer on the user form is the same as running the buffer on the worksheet, except that on the user form, we target the frame where processing takes place. I won't do a step-by-step explanation on this one because we have already covered this in the circular buffer UI. So use the demo file and the circular buffer video in this playlist as your guide. Thank you. Let's meet in the next program. I promise you will like it.